When the porch light flickers on behind you, you finally make it to your front door, fumbling for your keys in the dark and feeling a sense of relief. Suddenly, the porch light flickers on, revealing your shadow and another one standing right behind it. A long, drawn-out exhale. The sound is slightly shaky, filled with the weariness of a day that has lasted far too long. The word isn't spoken. It's a thought, a prayer whispered into the cold night air. The street is a void, a canyon of darkened houses and sleeping families. This small patch of concrete, this unremarkable front porch, is my finish line. The air is sharp, carrying the distant, sterile hum of a city that never really sleeps. But out here, in this quiet pocket of suburbia, it feels like the world is holding its breath. There's the familiar fumble, that clumsy search for the right key on a chain that holds far too many. In this darkness, every key looks the same. I can only tell them apart by the feel of their teeth against my numb thumb. The jingle is a tiny metallic crack in the profound silence. One key scrapes the lock plate. Wrong one. Another. The tumblers don't even pretend to budge. It's always the last key you try. The cold's starting to seep through my coat now. It's a low, persistent chill that has nothing to do with the temperature and everything to do with the vulnerability of being out in the open, so exposed. Just get inside. Just get the door open. Inside is warmth. Inside is light. Inside is safe. The key slides in. It feels right, but it sticks. A stubborn refusal. A little jiggle. A whispered curse. The simple act of opening a door has become a struggle, a final, frustrating barrier between the day's exhaustion and the promise of rest, the promise of safety. A sound. It was nothing, just the scrape of dry leaves skittering across the asphalt, pushed by a sudden gust. That's all. It has to be. But it sounded heavier than that. It sounded deliberate, like a shoe dragging on the pavement for just a moment, somewhere down the street, lost in the echoing quiet. I freeze. Keys in hand, fingers frozen against the cold metal of the doorknob. I just listen. Nothing. Just the thrumming of my own blood in my ears and that ever-present city hum. I'm being ridiculous. This is what exhaustion does. It sharpens your senses in all the wrong ways, turns a mundane sound into a warning, twists familiar shadows into menacing shapes. Old houses like this one are a symphony of strange noises. The groans of settling wood, the sighs of pipes, the rattle of a window in its frame. You learn to live with it. You learn to ignore it. I turn my attention back to the lock, forcing it. The key grinds, protesting, and for a heart-stopping second, I imagine it snapping off, leaving me stranded out here. But then, with a final satisfying click, the deadbolt retracts. Victory. A small, foolish wave of relief washes over me. My hand is on the knob, ready to push the door open and step across the threshold. I'm standing on that weird in-between space, not quite outside, but not yet in, and I've been standing here for way too long. The feeling of being watched prickles at the back of my neck again, a primal instinct I try to crush with logic. It's just the dark. It's just fatigue. Just as my weight shifts to push the door inward, a sound slices through the air. A low electric buzz, and then light. The porch light above me is flickered on. I didn't do that. The switch is inside. Must be a timer I forgot about, or maybe a motion sensor I never knew we had. My first thought isn't fear, but annoyance. Great. Another broken thing. The light isn't the warm, steady, welcoming glow it's supposed to be. It's a sick, sputtering, violent pulse, a frantic, buzzing spasm of dirty, yellow-orange light that paints the porch in strobing shades of decay. On, off, on, off, on. The rhythm is maddening, all over the place, like an insect trapped in a jar, buzzing and throwing itself against the glass in a desperate, failing attempt to escape. I stare up at the glass fixture, watching the filament inside the bulb flare and die, flare and die. It must be a faulty wire, a loose bulb. There are a dozen rational explanations. Voltage drops can cause flickering, even interference from other appliances. It's a common problem, an inconvenience. But as I stand there, bathed in its stuttering glow, another thought, colder and sharper, cuts through the rationalizations. The pattern doesn't feel random. It feels considered. It feels like a signal. The flickering light throws my shadow on the front door in front of me, and it's like some grotesque puppet show. With every pulse of light, my shadow jerks and writhes, its limbs stretching out and then snapping back. A distorted, monstrous version of me, dancing a silent, frantic jig just inches from my face. It's deeply unsettling, watching this broken version of myself, and I can't look away. My hand is still on the doorknob, but I've lost all my strength. I'm frozen, mesmerized by the spastic dance of my own shadow. The world has shrunk to this porch, this door, this broken light. The buzzing sound feels like it's inside my skull. Then, the flickering stops. The buzzing ceases. The light holds, a single, steady, unwavering beam. For one long, perfect, terrible second, there is absolute clarity. The world stops spasming. In that silent, steady glow, my shadow is cast in sharp, perfect relief against the wood of the door. It is still, utterly and completely still, and it is not alone. Rising from the same spot on the ground, fused to the heels of my own shadow, is another one. It's a stark, black silhouette, undeniable, taller than my shadow, thinner. The proportions are all wrong, the limbs too long, the head tilted at an angle a human neck should not be able to make. It has no substance, no body of its own, but it's there. A shadow without a source. It is standing directly behind me, so close that our shadows are touching. The cold that seeps into me now has nothing to do with the night air. It's an internal winter, a freezing of the blood in my veins. Every nerve ending screams at me to turn around, while every cell in my body screams at me to stay perfectly still. The rational explanations, the dismissed sounds, the logical reasons, they all burn away in an instant, leaving only the horrifying, impossible truth, the scrape of the shoe, the feeling of being watched. I was never alone out here. The light begins to flicker again, but it's different this time. Faster, a frantic, desperate strobe. On, off, on, off, on, off, and with each blink of sickly yellow light, the second shadow is there, then gone, there, then gone. It's a stop-motion horror film playing out on my front door, and the subject is my own death. Each flash feels like the click of a camera, capturing the final moments of my life. I don't dare turn around. I don't dare breathe. Safety is right there, a simple turn of the knob and a step forward. But the door is no longer a gateway to safety. It's a trap. What am I letting in if I open it? Does it even matter? What if the thing behind me isn't waiting for an invitation? My mind races, and a story I once heard surfaces from somewhere deep in my memory. A story about a family, and a porch light that was kept on every night as a kind of ward. The one night it was forgotten. The one night the house was dark. The father vanished without a trace. They kept the light on every night after that, a desperate ritual to keep the darkness at bay. But my light isn't a ward. It's a beacon. The thing wasn't lurking in the darkness, waiting for it to be safe. It was waiting for the light. The light didn't turn on to save me from the dark. It turned on to show the thing in the dark where I was. The pattern of the flicker changes again. It's no longer just a fast strobe. There's a rhythm to it now. Deliberate, intentional, slow, quick, slow. It's a language. It's Morse code. A message is being sent, or answered. It doesn't matter which. The terrifying realization is that a conversation is happening, and I am the subject. The porch light was not an accident. It wasn't a malfunction. It was an announcement, an arrival. It's a spotlight, and I am the unwilling performer on a stage I never knew I had stepped onto. It turned on to reveal a truth I could have never accepted in the dark. I was already caught. So what would you do? Right here, right now. Frozen on the doorstep, your own shadow betraying you. Do you take your chances and run inside, praying you can slam the door shut in time? Or do you abandon the promise of home and bolt, back into the dark street, hoping the thing's attention is fixed on the light, on the house? Let me know in the comments what your choice would be. And if you have a story about a time the mundane suddenly became terrifying, I want to hear it. Subscribe for more short horror that finds fear in the everyday. The flickering intensifies, the buzzing rising to a hysterical shriek. It's a chaotic, blinding strobe now, turning my vision into a series of fractured, terrifying snapshots. My shadow and the other one are a blended, writhing mess on the door, inseparable in the chaos of the light. I can feel it. A distinct change in the air directly behind me. A pocket of absolute cold. The pressure of a physical presence so close that the fine hairs on my neck stand up, not from fear, but from a tangible, physical static in the air. And then I hear it. It's not the wind. It's not the house. It's a sound that has no right to exist. A soft, wet, sibilant whisper impossibly close to my ear. It speaks a word, a name, in a voice made of rustling leaves and cracking bones. The porch light gives one last, convulsive flicker. And then, it dies. The world is plunged into absolute, suffocating darkness. A click. The sound of the key turning the rest of the way in the lock, unlocking the door. But it wasn't my hand that turned it.